The GT4 European Series gets underway at Imola this weekend, and we're looking forward to this session. We have free practice yesterday, and Q1 is ready to go. The drivers then will make their way shortly down the pit road, ready to go out onto the circuit. You qualify for the race that you are going to start, so it's going to be interesting to see who has been nominated to do this session. We've got one car that is going to be a solo effort, that being Ibrahim Mokiai's BMW M4, co-driver not here, so he's been given, under the steward's decision, an extra 10 seconds on his pit stop time, but he's going to be able to drive solo, and it's only a 20-minute first part to the session, so everybody out on track. So Q1 underway, and this, as I say, is when we start to see who has been given the driving chores to start the first of the two races of the weekend. Now, inevitably, with the nature of the world over the last few months, some drivers, I'm afraid, haven't got a budget. Other drivers have had to change their plans, and that means that there's been quite a lot of chopping and changing to the entry list. However, the teams that are here, the entry that we have got is still a good one. It may not be quite as strong as we had numerically last year, but in terms of the quality, it is a very good one nonetheless. And we will see very shortly exactly who is going to be good in terms of times. The BMWs there, you see. And this first qualifying period will be for the race 1 grid. That is to be run today. So let's have a look at who we've got. Let's see who's going to be doing the driving duties within this session. Number 8, first out, Stéphane Lemeray, driving the CMR Toyota, which is definitely going to be a car to watch because it's the new GT4 entry, the Toyota GR Supra, GR4 Gazoo Racing. In the BMWs, run by the SRO Motorsports squad, it is number 12 in the hands of the Formula Renault eSports champion of the lockdown months, Cem Boulevasi, who will go in this session. And 13 is inevitably Ibrahim Mokiai, because there's only him. There, number 76 Porsche is Giuseppe Getzi, another experienced GT4 driver in the very, very smart Cayman 718, which has been a GT4 car anyway for a couple of seasons, but in a couple of countries now there is the Cayman Challenge, the Sprint Challenge as it's called. The UK has one, for example, this year. So more and more of these 718 styled Caymans coming into motorsport, and Giuseppe Getzi driving this car with Salvatore Riolo. So it's the first time really that we've seen Toyota coming into GT4. I touched on the Stéphane Lemeray car a moment ago, and Stéphane Lemeray, hugely experienced. Gael Castelli drives the second stint with him. There's another car for Antoine Potti and Timothée Bure. Now, Bure is on GT3 duty here as well as GT4, so he's in for a busy weekend, but he's getting track knowledge all the time. And Giuseppe Getzi here with two absolute bests, looking very strong indeed as he makes his way in this 17-strong field down towards Rivazza. Rides the curb, gets back onto the power. This car also from the AM Cup. We've got no pros. You can only be a Pro-Am or a Silver or an Am under the European GT4 regulations. It's a season of consolidation, really. But you've got the variety. As Getzi goes to the top, you've got Toyota, you've got Porsche, you've got BMW, you've got Chevrolet, you've got Mercedes, all represented on the grid. So there's a lot to look for here. 110, this is the BMW of stalwart racers in this series, Mark van der Aar and Koen Burgarts. And Mark van der Aar is driving at the moment, number 110. 111, which is the sister car, is for Bas Schouten and Gabriele Piana, both of whom are quick. They're both Silver Cup cars, those, but I would have thought Gabriele Piana ought to be there or thereabouts in terms of going for pole when it's his stint. Ibrahim Mokiai now goes up to the top of the times in the bright blue number 13 BMW. There is Mark van der Aar, number 110. So van der Aar, who drove in this championship last season, has been a regular in the championship, in fact, for a number of seasons, drops downhill. And there, the BMW on its first proper flying lap of the session here. Stéphane Lemeray in the Toyota. Expect to see more and more of those because they will be equivalent in the British GT Championship within the GT4 class. Stéphane Lemeray having to get through the traffic as he came down towards Ravatz, that seemed to compromise the car. It looks quite high, doesn't it, in comparison with others, and leaning a lot. But Lemeray, who's a hugely experienced driver, getting himself then now with an absolute best and then a personal best, certainly on the pace. Is this going to be good enough, though, for the top of the times? Let's see. Lemeray up towards the timing line, and he does go quickest of all. So Stéphane Lemeray, 1 minute 54.233, half a second quicker than Ibrahim Okiai now. So it's a good effort, as their 8th fastest is Bas Schouten. So this session, 20 minutes, one driver for it, and then they switch, and then you have the grid deciding the second race for the GT4 European Series. So Bas Schouten, personal best in the first sector. We've still got a few cars to be tempted out, I think. We should have 17 in total. Gabriele Piano was the fastest in both of the free practice sessions yesterday. Replay here of bouncing over the curb, car 12 BMW, which is Kiem Bulukbersi. As I say, the esports Formula Renault Euro Cup lockdown champion, but getting a bit demob happy there coming into Ravatz. Bas Schouten then is 9th in the times now, having fended off the Mercedes of Luc Ibanez, the NM racing team, moving from Ginetta to Mercedes for this year. Way up the curb goes Bas Schouten. GT4 cars, of course, closer to the road-going equivalent than a GT3 car is, and it shows, doesn't it, in the lack of aero, the lack of downforce, the extra effort the drivers are having to put in. Yeah, they're not as quick. Bas Schouten, though, certainly is trying hard as he goes up to the top of the times. Tremendous effort, that. We just had the Cayman of Ivan Yakumo go quickest, but now Bas Schouten gets the BMW quicker than anybody. And then he is, in turn, mugged because Luc Ibanez goes to the top of the times in the Mercedes. So it's changing all the while here. Luc Ibanez for NM Racing Team. Who else do we have on track? Ivan Yakumo, Jörg Wiebahn for Allied Racing. Now, Jörg Wiebahn is a very experienced GT4 driver. He's got a Porsche Cayman for this season, so getting more and more Caymans into the championship. And he's also got a new co-driver, Nikolai Moller-Madsen, who was the Silver Cup champion 2 years ago, joins forces with him. We have there, trying to work his way through the traffic, Stéphane Lemeray, and off the road has gone number 17. That is Joop Rapanga, and he's gone a long, long way off there, hasn't he, at the top of the hill. So on the run up towards the Peratella, how did he get there? Completely on his own. Brakes, turns in, car swaps ends, and so into the gravel bed for presumably the remainder of the session goes Joop Rapanga, the car that he shares with Timon Nabeurs, and that's brought out a red flag. So Q1 is stopped, and because it is qualifying, so the clock stops as well. Out comes the red flag, and that gives everybody a chance now to try and regroup for the marshals to get the car out of harm's way. Just to confirm the others, Antoine Potti will drive the other Toyota Supra in this session. Jan Kasperlik takes the Allied Racing second Cayman. The very experienced Dario Cerati's Auto Orlando Sport Cayman for this session. And Wim Spinoy will drive in the car that he shares with Kay van Berlo. And does that leave us with anybody else? Well, we should have number 27 of Valentin Asclo, who's also doing GT3 as well as GT4 duties, but that car I don't think has gone out. So there's a question mark over that. 71, Paolo Melloni doing this session. And what about 89 of Nicolas Gomar, Gilles Vannelet, that's not ventured out either, so as I can see. So we've got a couple of cars that are absent thus far. And indeed a couple that haven't yet done a lap time. So it'll be 11 minutes for Q1 when we go back to a green flag. So as soon as the marshals can get that car out of harm's way, then we should be good to go. There is the errant Chevrolet, the sole Camaro GT4R that we have in the entry. So slightly puzzling as to why we don't have the full 17, because they all did go out yesterday. So maybe one or two are going to go out a little bit later and save tyres. But 20 minutes doesn't give you a huge amount of time anyway. There's another car venturing back to the pit lane. You see the Certina watch decals all over the windscreen. Certina providing watches to the pole position drivers within the classes. Part of the Swatch Group, which has been an enthusiastic supporter of SRO's activities for many, many seasons. And Certina, the brand associated with GT4 European Series 22. Then Jan Kasperlik in his Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 CSMR, to give it its full title. CS for Club Sport, MR for Manthey Racing, which is the organisation that develops the car for track use. And that's how it is homologated as that title. So there is the Allied racing car with a duck on the side, venturing back to the pit lane. And as soon as the track is clear, then we should be in business. So in comes the Porsche. So Luc Ibanez at the moment is quickest by only 55 one-thousandths of a second over Bas Schouten. And with the road clear, we await the race director's instruction that things are about to get underway. There's the pit lane, which is for many of the GT4 teams and drivers new, because this is a venue that we have not been to before, certainly as far as the headline event is concerned, the GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS, and the teams, in many cases, with no data, the drivers no experience either of all of this, so they're still learning all the time. So Luc Ibanez, Bas Schouten, Stéphane Lemeray, three very experienced drivers. Stéphane Lemeray, the Belgian journalist, who's done a huge amount of miles in whether it's been GT1, 2, 3 or 4 machinery, or at the other end of the spectrum, the Fun Cup over the years. So perhaps it's no surprise to have him up near the pointy end of the grid. Gael Castelli will do the other stint in that car, and he's certainly going to be a potential victor, that's for sure. So too, I would have thought, is Luc Ibanez and Xavier Lloveras with the Mercedes, as I say, switching from the Ginetta to the Mercedes. So fingers crossed that, as I say, these two missing cars are going to venture out. We hadn't even got a time in either for Jan Kasperlik nor for Antoine Potti. So there's more to come from those that had just gone out before we got the red flag. Antoine Potti, only 17 years of age. It was quite a step up for him coming into GT4 this year. And they're ready to drive back to the pit lane on instruction from the officials is number 17. So Joop Rapinge sets off. Timothy Bure, who's sharing with Antoine Potti, just to finish off the story, is a regular in the Le Mans 24 hours. He's doing the GT3 3-hour race here in a Lexus. But Antoine has raced in karting. He's raced in Formula 4 in the Southeast Asia Championship and has done a bit of pre-season testing. But now a new series, new circuit for him. You see all the dust falling out of the back. A fair old lick here, actually. Joop Rapinge drives back to the pit lane, trying to shake the gravel out of the bottom of the car. But, of course, the danger is that then drops on the road for everybody else when the session goes live. So he's got to, in theory, keep offline. But not sure the weaving is necessarily going to go down a storm with the race officials here. So that red flag out. And as soon as this car is back into the pit lane, we will be good to go for the resumption of Q1. Joop Rapinge, the man that went into the gravel trap, former karter, but new to car racing this year. He's done 3 or 4 seasons of kart racing, but now stepping up to car racing for the first time. So a fairly steep learning curve, all of this. And there he is in the replay, whacking the curb, which again should get some more of the gravel to drop out of the bottom. You see it in the super slow-mo as he weaves around, jinks the car left and right just to try and shake more of it out. Stand on the brakes. Handfuls of it pour out. And bear in mind, he's done about half a lap here and it's still falling out of the bottom of the car because so much of it gets scooped up when you plough into the gravel. What we now hopefully aren't going to have is a long wait while marshals with brooms have to go and sweep the gravel off the track. However, safety must come first. So this qualifying session for the moment red flagged and is due to get underway any moment, in fact. 11:28 is the restart time, so we should be in business unless, yep, there's the green light. There's the gravel by the side of the road, but we are ready with the cars on track once again. So the field being shepherded out. Clock restarts, of course, now that we go to green flag conditions. If it's qualifying, it stops. If it's free practice, if it's free practice, the clock carries on ticking, and hence we are now looking at 11 minutes of the session. You're going to lose a couple of those at least for an outlap there. Number 76 onto the circuit, the first of the Porsches. It's the car that Giuseppe Gezzi and Salvatore Riolo share. '11th that car is, and there Dario Cerati behind in the second of the Orlando Sport cars. Dario Cerati, class winner in the Italian GT Championship, GT4 machinery. Now he will know Imola. He's raced in the GT4 series, but he's been a mainstay of Italian GT racing for many, many years, plus the European Ferrari Challenge, French GT he's racing as well. So Dario Cerati does have Imola knowledge in the armoury, that's for sure. Right, I think we've also now gained our 2 missing cars because Tio Nue has gone out in the AGS events Aston Martin that haven't been seen before the stoppage, and also Nicolas Gomar has gone out in the second of the AGS events cars. Not quite sure why they were late on parade, but anyway, they're on track now, which is the main thing. And is Luke Ibanez going to hang on in there to the top time? So far, so good. Number 12 BMW booms past the pits then, that being the car of Cem Bulakhbasti, the esports racer. Fourth fastest he is. Ibrahim Okyay, his teammate, is the driver 9th, but he's the one that's got to go solo, and as a result of that gets an extra 10 seconds in the pit stop. That's the penalty for going on your own. So Bashoughton heads up the hill, second fastest. Now, when we go to proper flying laps, he's got to try and find 56 thousandths to get ahead of the NM Racing Team Mercedes of Luke Ibanez. You see how curve happy Schouten is, and that bounces him out wide as he comes down through the approach to Rivazza, rides the curbs. Got the Acqua Minerale first, I should say. Climbs the hill now. So on goes Schouten. Got to say, Imola looking in great form here for a circuit that's not been on the radar too much for high-profile international racing. It's great that the SRO team has gone there this weekend, and it's great to see new championships racing at the circuit. Down the hill then plunges Bashoughton. Is this going to be a car good enough come the end of the session for the top of the times? Can this be provisional pole position? You can see that Bashoughton is absolutely on it. The former single-seater racer comes up over the timing line now, the speed building all the while, breaks the beam, and as he does so, goes second fastest, or stays second fastest. That lap was a 52.509, so it was his best, but not as good yet as this car. He's got to find 18 thousandths now to go quicker. So Luke Ibanez drops down the hill, defecting, as I say, in a sense, from Ginetta to Mercedes for this year. It was good to have the Ginetta on the grid, but it was very much a uphill struggle, really, as a lone effort against the might of bigger factory-developed cars. And so the decision taken to forsake the Ginetta to go to Mercedes AMG with this GT4. And through it comes, bouncing the curb, sideways, correction needed, correction applied. And it's now dropped a second because on his first proper flying lap, Theo Nue has gone up to the very top in the AGS events Aston Martin. So number 27, Aston, goes fastest. So Luke Ibanez, who's been busy trying to fend off the effort of Bashoughton, has ended up, in fact, losing pole position anyway. We've got 5 3/4 minutes still to go. And Bashoughton here is on his way up towards the line. Ibanez stays second then on that lap. So that was a 53.248, and he needs to be on a 52.2 in order to fight for pole against this car. So Theo Nue back out on track. Climbs the hill over the brow. So Theo Nue looking very, very strong indeed. It's impressive, isn't it, the way that he can get on with the job straight away, dive into the session and instantly get himself up to the pointy end of the time. So Nue here, another graduate of karting, drove in French GT4 last year. He was also in French Formula 4 2 seasons back. 718, adorning a 718 here for the Centri Porsche Tricino. Ivan Giacomo, the Swiss driver, and off the road has gone 66 Toyota. Now that is the car of Antoine Potti. I think that's coming out of Tamburello, but he's facing the wrong way. Can he get going from there? No, is the answer. Red flag, second stoppage. So Antoine Potti causes a red. And that's going to be a real frustration for many, not least because with only 4 minutes to go, even when the session restarts, you're not going to be able to get very much in. You might get one flying lap, just. So, that presupposes you're on your toes on the exit of the pit lane. It's not the Tamburello, I'll tell you a lie. The car will be retrieved or fired up. Marshals, of course, in limited numbers at race meetings under the current restrictions on personnel and on social distancing. And it's coming through the second bit of Rivazza, I understand, where Antoine Potti has come to rest. So he stays in the car as instructed, and it will then be hoiked out of the way swiftly before we get back to racing. Marshall's instructing Antoine Potti as to how to turn here and when to turn to get through the gap in the tyre stack. Well versed in getting cars out of gravel at Rivazza, these Marshals. So it's a shame that the Toyota will miss the last few minutes of the session, but it's good that the cars are showing pace. We had, incidentally, just before the stoppage, a new pole position time set by Cem Bologbesi, who went up to the very top. Bologbesi quicker by 0.267 of a second from Theo Nue, who had been looking strong anyway. Bologbesi, who'd driven in the championship last year. A big frustration for Ivan Yakimo that we had seen before that red flag, because he had done the absolute best in Sector 1 on that lap. So it was looking good for him until the stoppage came. So 4 minutes to go when we get going once more. So the road is clear, and so now we await for the instruction. So number 66 in the gravel bed, and as the cause of a red flag, number 17, that was Joop Rapinge, loses his best lap time, and I would imagine therefore the same penalty to go the way of 66 now, Antoine Potti. So the grid is going to look somewhat different because of drivers losing their best lap times. The reasoning behind this is that we don't want to be stopping sessions all the time, so driving standards need to improve or need to be sharpened, and therefore one of the ways of doing that is to try and make sure that drivers stay on the track, don't give them that comfort zone of going off and keeping a lap time still. However, it didn't work. There is the Toyota in question, set to return to the pit lane. Good thing about the circuit, of course, is that all the access roads, so it can drive around the back of the barriers, get back onto the circuit, and it'll nip to pit in. And as soon as that happens, then one hopes that the race director can give the signal to get the session back underway. This car entered notionally by Timothy Bure, but the team operating it is CMR, Classic and Modern Racing, which runs the two Toyota Supras, also running Bentleys in GT3. So it's a big, big team here. Lots of activity. So, circuit clear. And what a wait to restart time now, which is not yet being offered up. Now, is the session going to restart, would be a question. As I say, 4 minutes gives you just about time to do one proper flying lap. Yes, the lights have gone green, so we are back in business. Not many takers, so we've still got lots of people in the pit lane, and it could be, as I say, that they don't feel it's worth going out, but because it is a qualifying session, the time is afforded to them if the drivers wish to go. Yes, there are some takers. So out has gone Barschouten, out there also the BMW Paolo Meloni, yes it is, and 110 Mark van der Aar, who is 11th fastest. So yeah, shaking them out. They weren't on their toes necessarily, but they have ventured out in the end. Right, Luke Ibanez on circuit. He was the fastest. This is, as I say, now the Cem Bolobazi who has gone to the top. So you've got Bolobazi, Nue, Ibanez, the top three. Stefan Lemaire there goes through. So the very experienced Belgian driver, where's he dropped to? Because he was quick early on. He's fallen to 5th. As I say, it's really going to be one last shot for many of them here, as out of the Acqua Minerale he comes. A much reprofiled corner. Think back to Riccardo Patrese sliding off when leading the San Marino Grand Prix. Well, these days the runoff and the extra tarmac there makes life a lot softer for you. Out of the chicane, up at the Variante Alta comes then Lemaire. Behind him is Luke Ibanez, 2 minutes and change on the clock. And under the blue skies, the cars drop down the hill. With there, Luke Ibanez looking as though this is a fairly modest lap, as though he's out there in case he wants to respond, but doesn't really feel he can do here. He's not throwing everything at it, is he? Up to the line he comes. The rest of the field comes pouring by. 17 strong, as I say, the entry, which has inevitably lost a few teams and drivers because of the global situation. But even so, it's a good entry and a strong entry, and it's going to be a lively race of races, I think, especially given the way that Ibanez is pushing on there. He still means business, and this is definitely looking more an impressive lap, isn't it? He's going for it now. So Luke Ibanez presses on. He might actually get himself back here, you know, onto the front row of the grid, because he's found a 10th in that first sector. So a personal best. And Luke Ibanez, a 10th quicker than he had been, uses lots of curb, but loses a couple of 10ths in that middle sector as he goes through the Acqua Minerale now, riding the curb again, using all of the width of the road available to him. And Ibanez brakes hard, sets the car up for the Variante Alta, bounces over the curb, in and out and through. While all this is going on, Stefan Lemaire ahead of him has done the absolute best within sector 2. The opening sector wasn't mega, but the middle sector is the best of anybody in the session. The flag is imminent. It might just greet these two. Let's see. 7 seconds on the clock. Yeah, it's being made ready. So Stefan Lemaire, that's the car to watch, because this has just done the absolute best middle sector. Stefan Lemaire will be the first to take the flag. 5th he is. Is this going to be pole position for Stefan Lemaire? No, it is not. It's 3rd. It gets him a row up the grid. What about Luke Ibanez? He is mugged down to 5th, because it is going to be Bolobazi and Schouten for the front row then. So it's a BMW lockout from 2 different teams. Schouten is going to be 2nd, and Cem Bolobazi goes to the very top. So that's the man of the moment, Cem Bolobazi to the very top. and he's quicker in the end by 0.131 of a second over the opposition. So number 12 BMW tops the times. Cembolo Barsi from Bas Schouten, Stefan Lemeray third, and then Theo Nue fourth, Luc Ibanez fifth, and sixth fastest, Ivan Yakumo. So, but cars now head back to the pit lane, and there will be the reset, if you like, before we have the next driver in. So there's going to be a quick break. The problem now that is faced by Antoine Potti is that he hadn't done many laps. You take the best one away, and he hasn't got a lap time. So what that now means is that he is going to be at the back of the grid come what may. Through going off the road, it's cost him dear. There is Cembolo Barsi returning to the pit lane. He will give the car now to Yajish Gedik. He will do the next stint, and it'll be the grid for the second part of qualifying, race 2, that we are next concerned with. So the officials will get ready, the teams will get ready, and then we'll be good to go in a few minutes' time. As I say, it's a great shame that we've had a number of teams having to change their plans for the season, but still a competitive entry nonetheless. So that's how we look at the end of the first part of qualifying, with Cembolo Barsi and Yajish Gedik on pole. The first shown driver did the time, so Cembolo Barsi, Schouten, Lemeray the order, Theo Nue fourth, Luc Ibanez fifth, Ivan Yakumo sixth, Paolo Maloney seventh, Jan Kasperlik eighth ahead of Jörg Wiebahn, and then Mark van der Aar. Wim Spinoy did go out late, but was 11th in the end. And then for 12 fastest, losing his best lap time, you got Broponge. Ibrahim Okiai going solo, 13th from Giuseppe Gezzi. Behind him, there was Dario Cerati and Nicolas Gomart, moving from Lamborghini Super Trofeo and French GT into European GT4, and Antoine Potti in the gravel, losing his best lap time. And the consequence of that, as I say, is that he's now got nothing really to fall back on. So there wasn't a second best lap time to count. He's at the back of the grid come what may. So the Imola circuit will get itself set for Q2. Quick reminder of what was going on in Q1 there, with the likes of Stefan Lemeray hustling on. Big slide there coming from the Cembolo Barsi BMW, and the big spin that caused the first red flag a long way off the road, that Yacht Ropange going through the gravel. Bas Schouten in the BMW, second fastest at the end. Luc Ibanez had been quickest up to the second of the red flags, but when he went back out, try as he might, couldn't wring anything more from the Mercedes to go to the very top. Off the road went Antoine Potti, and the car ground to a halt, bringing another stoppage. And when we went back out, it was this car of Cembolo Barsi that went to the top of the times, pole position provisionally for race 1 in the GT4 European Series. So we will have, in about 3 minutes' time, the second part of qualifying. There you see the race control building, the podium, which, sad to say, isn't going to be used this weekend because of social distancing. Drivers will have their trophies with more space on the grid or in the pit lane. And looking down the hill, coming up from Tosa, the track temperature up to 25.8 degrees now. It's a nice sunny day here at Imola, giving everybody, I think, renewed optimism, and everyone pleased to be back out, the season underway, for this delayed start. So many different rejigs of the calendar being done to try and second guess really what the world was going to do and whether SRO's European season could start in late April or late May or late June or, in the end, late July. Of course, by rights, this would have been the Spa 24 hours weekend, but that's going to be an October event, much of it run in darkness, and you can't look at Imola without recollecting that first weekend of May 1994 and the many tributes on the outside of Tamburello to the late, great Ayrton Senna. Weekend that also, of course, claimed the life of Roland Ratzenberger down at the Villeneuve corner. And what is also always welcome to see is that he has not been forgotten or ignored in that weekend's tragedy either, despite not having the profile or the results. But he was a very, very talented racing driver. But Imola has come back onto the international radar with this weekend, which is really good to see. It was here 2 years ago, for example, that Lamborghini brought the Super Trofeo World Final, and with it lots of teams from not just Europe but North America, from Asia as well, all of whom had a great time. Some great racing is delivered around here. It's a good old school circuit. It's got undulations, it's got limited runoff at certain places, it's got bits that can bite you. So for the driver, you have to focus your attention, and we'll see how drivers fare shortly in this second qualifying period, because we are almost ready to go. Lights will go green shortly at the end of the pit lane and around the circuit. So with the exception of the Ibrahim Okyai BMW, it's going to be a different driver in each car now. So we do this reset for the second session, the second race grid. So, for example, Stefan Lemre will give way to Gael Castelli. Luc Ivanev gives way to Xavier Lloveras. Job Raponge gives way to Timon Naboers. Jörg Wiebahn in the Cayman number 21 hands over now to Nikolai Müller-Madsen. That could be on pole. Jan Kasperlik will give way to Bastian Buss, another of the quick young Danish drivers. Theo Nue, who was quick, gives over to Valentin Asclot. Now, he's got to adapt, like Timothy Bure, that we'll come to in a moment. He's got to adapt from GT4 to GT3 machinery over the course of the weekend. But Asclot will be one to watch. Kay van Berlo takes over from Wim Spinoy. Timothy Bure from Antoine Potti. Stefano Valli will drive Paolo Maloney's BMW. Maurizio Frati takes over Dario Cerati's Porsche, as out come the cars. Gilles Vanelay relieves Nicola Goma. Salvatore Riolo from Giuseppe Gezzi. Koen Bogart takes over Mark van der Aar's RN Vision BMW. Gabriele Piana, again, he was quickest in both FP sessions yesterday. So Piana for pole, don't rule it out. He takes over from Bas Schouten, and Joel Camafias takes over from Ivan Iacamo. Session is live, 20 minutes, assuming nobody throws it at the wheels. So a reminder that 1:51.978 was the best time that we had in Q1. There is Jagish Gedik taking over that pole car from now Cem Bölökbazi. So with a ride over the curb, two BMWs out together. These the Borussia Automotive Motorsport cars. And although it's shown as Theo Nue once more, it should be Valentin Asclot doing the absolute best in the first sector on this lap, so he means business, getting on with the job. Asclot, who came from Formula Renault NEC, there goes the Chevrolet Camaro through, got the Mercedes AMG GT4 behind. That is number 30, the car of Kay van Berlo, another of the current generation of very quick young Dutch drivers who's done a bit of LMP as well as GT racing. There, Kay van Berlo making the run up towards the line. Into the pit lane, though, comes the Camaro, so that's brought back in by Timon Naboers. And as I say, also in Kay van Berlo, so just an exploratory lap, make sure all is good. Then you can start thinking about a time, and that is exactly here what Jagish Gedik is doing. I still think one to savour when he gets going is going to be Gabriele Piana in the number 111 BMW. Whoops, off the road goes Gedish. So as he comes towards Villeneuve, makes a mess of it, runs off the circuit. into Tosa now. Over the brow, climbs the hill through the Piratella, and I'm going to take some of the grip away. Here's the replay from a different angle, just completely ran out of road, coming through Villeneuve, over the curb and back on again, but that compromises the run to Tosa, which in turn, because you've got a long steep climb up the hill, compromises the next part of the lap. This car in Pro-Am, as you see from the labelling on the back of it. So it's the end of this lap where we'll start to see lap times being offered up. Jagish Gedik, who's done limited racing, has done the Vallelunga 6 hours in seasons past. Their number 111 is the BMW Gabriele Piana at the wheel of it, and it should be quick, this car. So also should Nikolai Moller-Madsen's Porsche. So you get the feeling here that you've got, even in the silver cars, the quicker driver in many cases in the second part of qualifying. And Okiai goes to the top, Jagish Gedik second. Now, what's Piana up to in terms of sectors? Well, actually, suddenly the attention is on Nikolai Moller-Madsen, because the Cayman of Nikolai Moller-Madsen, 2 absolute best. Number 21 Porsche, run by the Allied Racing Squad, and Nikolai Moller-Madsen there. Virtually straight lines the chicane, doesn't he, as best he can, going through the Variante Alta, turns 14 and 15, but Nikolai Moller-Madsen, that for many, many years has been an Audi driver, came out of the Audi TT Cup and then GT4 Audis, now in the Porsche. Very quick driver indeed, occasional GT3 outings in the 24 hours at the Nürburgring or in the old VLM. But Moller-Madsen here goes digging his way out of Rivazza. That will have cost him a little bit of time, but the Danish driver in this fabulous looking Cayman GT4 should head up to pole position on this lap, and as he breaks the beam, the lap time is a 1:51.648. So Nikolai Moller-Madsen does go top, and 3 absolute bests. Now, okay, it's easy to do that when it's early in the session, but he's absolutely on the ragged edge, isn't he? Hanging the back out there as he comes through the Tamburello, down now towards Villeneuve. Set the car up for the left on the approach, and then the right-hander that brings him into the corner itself. Up to second has now gone Gael Castelli. So taking over the car that was driven early on in the session by Stéphane Lemeray, the former Carrera Cup France and French Seat and Peugeot Spider champion, now going up to second. This is the car that Koen Bogaerts is driving now. He's taking it over from Mark van der Aert. And they are both Silver Cup drivers. Heading up the hill, 13 minutes still on the clock here, as you see. So there is Bogaerts. Not too much traffic to get in the way on this lap as he accelerates down the hill here. Moller-Madsen, Castelli, then Xavier Lloveras is your top 3, but Bastien Bus has just done now a lap which is good enough for, first of all, the car to go 14th, but with an absolute and a personal best. Bastien Bus now looking as though he's going to get the second of the Allied Porsches up to the pointy end of the grid as well. Over the timing line there goes Koen Bogaerts, 13th at the start of the lap, and the improvement, fingers crossed, will come, but no, surprisingly. He actually was about 7/10 down on that lap, so Koen Bogaerts not an improver. Uh, 718, that's Joel Camathias taking over for this session. That's the Century Porsche Tricino entry. So the 2 Swiss drivers, Ivan Iachimo and Joel Camathias, another experienced pair of hands from years of racing Porsches in GT categories. Drops down the hill. So the Porsche uphill now, heading towards the Variante Alta. Gabriele Piana, as perhaps predicted, has gone top. He has gone fastest, number 111 BMW, ahead of Mola Madsen. Castelli. Camathius is fourth, as you see. Fifth is Bastian Buss at the end of that previous lap. And then sixth fastest, Xavier Lloveras now. Over the timing line goes Camathius. Now he's got two personal bests on this lap. Is this going to be an improvement? No. In terms of a grid position, it keeps him fourth, in fact. It was his best lap, but not an improvement. Valentin Asclot, incidentally, personal and absolute. There he is in 27 Aston Martin. So this is a lap worth watching to the end as he comes now out of the double apex left of Rivazza. Of course, this counterclockwise circuit. Session at the halfway point. Asclot front row. Maybe. Through he comes. Second fastest. Front row it is. And that means he's ahead of Piana because Nikolai Mola Madsen has gone on to provisional pole position now. There is Valentin Asclot riding the curb a little bit. Xavier Lloveras not going quite as rapidly as Luke Ibanez did. So he is the slower of the two at the moment in that car. And the NM Racing Team Mercedes 8th fastest. Just had an improvement from Kay Van Berlo's Mercedes AMG, incidentally, to go 11th. So Lloveras heads downhill. There should be an improvement on this lap because two personal bests stack it up nicely, and he goes sixth. Yet moves a row up the grid. So Xavier Lloveras 152.207, and contrast that with what did his teammate do? 52.3, in fact, in the earlier session. So strangely, although he's further down the grid, he's actually now turned out to be the quicker of the two drivers. But it shows you how this is a more competitive session. 22 through and over the curb is Bastian Buss. So the Danish driver accelerates downhill. Seventh is Buss currently. Is there another improvement to come, I wonder? So this lap aborted. Bastian Buss heads into the pit lane. The deal all brought together by Jan Kasperlik, with whom he will drive. But it's a GT debut for Bastian Buss, 16 years of age, one of the youngest drivers in the series, and new to car racing. He's done a bit of sim racing, like many of them have, but new to real-world car racing. Jan Kasperlik, German driver in the AM class. Now, BMW on track. This is the Stefano Valli car that he shares with Paolo Meloni. Valli at the moment has got the road to himself. 8 minutes on the clock still. But there's some time to be found out of all of this. This is a car that is only 14th. Slowest at the moment, perhaps oddly, is Maurizio Frati in his Ortolando Cayman. This is Stefano Valli up towards the timing line. Two personal bests, and 14th he is. Will he stay there? Will he improve? He does improve. Valli up to 11th. Valli volleys up to 11th. So the W&D Racing Team BMW, 11th quickest. Stefano Valli 152.945. There's the Grunt & Go Chevrolet, the only example of the Yank tank on the grid, and it has now got Timon Nabuers behind the wheel, and it's down in both of the sectors on this lap. So Nabuers isn't going to be an improver on this lap. It was a car, remember, that missed a chunk of the earlier session by dint of being in the gravel trap. And into the pit lane comes Timon Nabuers as well. So with 6 minutes on the clock, remember this is sorting out the grid for tomorrow's race. It is currently Gabriele Piana back at the top of the times. Nikolai Moller-Madsen, third fastest now in this real snakes and ladders session. So it's Piana, Asclo, Moller-Madsen, Castelli, Camatrius, Lloveras. That's the order. Now what can Joel Camatrius do here into 718? Number 110 BMW, also striving to improve, but Koen Bogart's personal best in the middle sector of this lap, but he's still a long, long way down. We know that BMW is quick because there's one of those at the very top for this race, and indeed for race one. So different teams, different drivers, but thus far a BMW lockout in terms of qualifying. 5 minutes are still on the clock though, so there's time yet for improvements to come. Through over the line, Koen Bogart goes once again. 2 personal bests, improved lap time, 11th fastest. So Gabriele Piana faster by 0.165 of a second. BMW, Aston Martin, Porsche, Toyota, the top 4, which is good to see in terms of the different brands on the grid. That's nice and competitive. Number 75, I've not seen very much of, the Autolando Sport entry of Dario Cerati, but for this session, Maurizio Frati. And Frati storms up towards the timing line, but he's down in sectors 1 and 2. 17th he remains, I'm afraid to say, therefore no improvement coming from the Italian driver. Way up the curve there, is that Moller-Madsen again in 21. Still pushing hard, third fastest currently he is. Into the chicane, clatters the curb, exits the Variante Alta, all over the curb, and now plunges downhill once again. Now to go to the very top, what's he got to find? Effectively, he's got to find just over 0.2 of a second, and Moller-Madsen quicker than he had been in sector 1, down in sector 2, so it's got to be a very brave effort through these last couple of corners as he comes now through Rivazza up towards the line and into the pit lane. So he bails and the lap aborted, and that I think is the end of the session really. He's perhaps realised that he's not going to get any more out of the car, and that's it. Valentin Asclo is in, so this is the AGS events car of Gilles Vannelet, who's up in the first sector in fact. It's an AM Cup car this, but Gilles Vannelet pressing on. You see how much travel there is in the suspension as soon as they take an enormous bite of curb like Vannelet just did there. Rides over it coming into the Variante Alta. It bounces, it unsettles, it bucks, but he corrects it. Vannelet, hugely experienced. He's a European GT3 champion of seasons past. He's raced in one make. He's raced in GT4, in GT3, in GT2 from memory. You name it, Gilles' been there, whether it's been in Europe or in Asian series events. Great enthusiast. And he's an AM plus, really. Comes up towards the timing line, 9th fastest, Gilles Vannelet. So that was a better lap time, 1:52.341. Here is the quicker of the 2 Toyotas. Gael Castelli, 4th fastest. Where's the car that Timothy Bure drives? 10th quickest indeed at the moment. So Gael Castelli for Toyota. As I say, expect more of these to come into GT4 racing. Speedworks Motorsport in the UK has a brace of them for the GT4 class of British GT. And it's good that Toyota, like so many other manufacturers, is looking at coming into the GT4 arena. It's competitive, yes, it's tough, yes, but it's a good way of selling cars. So the CMR, Classic and Modern Racing run entry, climbs the hill. Castelli on this lap, down in Sector 1 and down in Sector 2, so don't expect wonders out of this, I'm afraid. And it may even be, looking at the pace of the car and the clock, that Castelli is going to abort and come into the pit lane early. There down the hill is 89. So Gilles Vannelet, again, up in the first sector on this lap. They'll squeeze another lap out of it if they require. The flag not yet out. Gilles Vannelet stays out on track. That puts another lap in the book, therefore, as he goes through. And a big spin has had Koen Bogart's attention. So on what's going to be his last lap, spins coming into Villeneuve, and Koen Bogart, although he rejoins, somewhat delayed, and that lap is wasted. How did he do it? Well, he was wrong coming in, and that put him wrong all the way through. Look at that, he tries to catch it, almost drifting style that, but in the end, I'm afraid the back overtakes the front, and that was that. Flag is out then, Q2 at an end. 1:51.068 is the time set by Gabriele Piana. And that compares with the 1:51.9 of Cem Borokbazi in Q1. So much the quicker session in the end. So the drivers will make their way back to the pit lane. And as I say, we'll have these cars out later in the day for the first race, 4:15 local time. It will run. So GT4 action to kick off the season, and there are other teams still finalising deals, so as the season goes on we should get a bigger and bigger grid. The championship that will move from here to Misano, and then the Nürburgring, Zandvoort, Spa and Paul Ricard. So again, the 6 events, I should say, 12-round calendar for GT4 European Series. There, Timothy Bure, even though the flag is out, he's still pushing on. And Timothy, 10th quickest for the experienced prototype racer, making his way towards the pit lane. And next on track will be the GT3 field once again, because their pre-qualifying session is going to be coming up shortly. But right now, the GT4 drivers conclude Q1, work done, and we look forward to the race itself later on in the day. So let's just remind ourselves who did what. Gabriele Piana then the fastest on a 1:51.068 ahead of Valentin As-Clos. And then Nikolai Moller-Madsen's Porsche third. Gael Castelli's Toyota 4th fastest ahead of Joel Camafius and then Xavier Lloveras. Gilles Vannelet 7th from Bastien Bus and Timon Nabours. Timothy Bure only 10th in the end, slightly surprisingly. Koen Bogart's 11th from Stefano Valli. Ibrahim Okiai, the soloist, 13th. And then the car that was on pole for race 1, 14th, Jagish Gedik. Just ahead of Kay Van Berlo a long way back. Salvatore Riolo 16th and Maurizio Frati is 17th on the grid. So that then is the order, and we have fewer red flags than we did in Q1. So let's have a look at the highlights, which began with the BMWs from the Borussia Automotive Motorsport team venturing out first with the road, in theory, to themselves. We have this big slide, though, from number 12, which was Jagish Gedich. Nikolai Müller-Madsen was on the money early doors in the session, got himself to the top, then he slipped to third. And in the end, Gabriele Piana, fastest in Q2 for the European GT4 series.